guys, it's Jessica from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here with a video I am so excited to do. It is long overdue, and that is, as you can tell if you clicked on this video, an entire guide to Nora Roberts. And this is a guide according to me. I feel like anybody talking about Nora Roberts books is going to be very personalized to them because she has such a massive backlist that it just depends on what you've read. I have not read anywhere near all of her books. She has a crazy amount, including her J.D. Robb books, crime procedural kind of futuristic romance books, and I've only read the first one of that, so I'm not going to be talking about that series. I started reading Nora Roberts probably, I want to say 3 years ago, really because I started really getting into romantic suspense. I started specifically reading Catherine Cowles, and her all-time favorite author is Nora Roberts, so I decided to jump in, and I have been obsessed ever since. I even have a book club with my Patreon where we read a Nora book a month, and I have gone through so much of her backlist, and it's been so much fun. And I will say, if you're an audiobook person, I only read Nora on audio now. For me, I really love listening to her stories. I feel like they translate so well on audio, and so I will almost always love them when I listen to them. The pacing is sometimes a little bit slower in the middle of her books, and for me on audio it just feels perfect, but if I'm physically reading it, it sometimes personally is a little bit too slow. So knowing her writing style and my preference, audiobooks 100% I will always listen to her books on audio and rarely ever physically read them, but I love her books so much. I have read a lot. I'm going to be talking about a lot, and I have it broken down into sections depending on what you want. So I will be starting out with my top 3 favorites and where I would recommend you start because they are my favorites. So if you want something that I'm obsessed with and really can get into, I recommend checking these out. I have bought these almost all secondhand, so I love having her hardbacks in my collection, and I find them on eBay. I found them at Half Price Books, library sales. You can really find her anywhere if you want to start building your collection of her books, but I love her so much. I will say now more than ever she has claim that she's not really a romance-focused author. She's just more of a fiction author or a suspense author and not necessarily writing romance. All of her books have some kind of romance in them, but lately definitely more towards her current writings. It's not as romance-focused, so just know that when you read her, but she is a very iconic romance author. Most of these are going to be from the 2000s on that I have read. I have not read I think any of her Harlequin except for historical romance, which I'm not going to talk about. I have collected them. I would love to start reading them eventually, but I mostly read her just current hardbacks, and I found the sweet spot for me is like the 2010s is my favorite of books that she's written, and so I will go ahead and chat about all of my favorite books by her. She is amazing, and if you love romantic suspense, I don't know how her mind does it. She writes like 4 books a year, 2 Nora books and 2 of her J.D. Robb books. She is insane. I only have one paranormal book on here. I have not delved into her fantasy and paranormal as much. I mostly am focusing on her contemporary in this one. She's written a lot. This is really literally scratching the surface, but if you're overwhelmed and you want to know where to start, I recommend here. So, top 3 for me. I'm gonna grab them from my stack. I think I do own them all. I do. Okay. I don't own every book I'm talking about. I do need to track them down and add them to my collection, but my top 3 Nora Roberts books. These are my top 3 to recommend. Real specifically, these are my top 2. This one I still really enjoyed. It was still a 4-star read for me, but I still liked it. But I did actually read this one physically, so I wonder. It was one of my very first Nora books, so I wonder if I listened to it, I would love it more. But my number 1 absolute favorite Nora book is going to be The Search. I'm definitely a dog person, and so I really like that aspect in here. We have Nora with her dog on the back of this, and if you didn't know on her hardbacks, I just feel like this is just so Nora. She always has her initials stamped somewhere on them, so this says NR on the cover, and I just love that little touch. But in The Search, this is so good. I love her settings. I've definitely noticed my preferences with her books because any author you're gonna like some and not like some, and I really love her settings where we're in the Pacific Northwest or some kind of coastal setting, though I have enjoyed her city settings. It's her ranch settings that I don't really necessarily love, and her southern settings I don't love, but this takes place, I believe, in the Pacific Northwest because it's on an island. Yeah, so this is a Pacific Northwest island, and in this one, the heroine was engaged, and she actually got kidnapped by a serial killer and she escaped, and so she is one of the only people that escaped the serial killer. The serial killer got so mad that he actually tracked her down and murdered her fiance and his dog, and so she is now living on this island, and she is a dog trainer, and so she has her own dog that she has trained to protect her, and she trains other dogs, and there's this artist that lives on the island now, and he gets this puppy who is just destructive. He names the puppy Jaws, and he's like, I need help training this dog. It is insane, and he's an artist with furniture, so he creates these really fun and intriguing pieces, and he approaches her and he's like, hey, I really need help. I will literally pay like anything. Can you help train my dog? So she does, and they end up having a romance, and then there are these murders happening that are the same as the serial killer who is in prison who tried taking her and killed her fiance. So they're like, is this a copycat? Is this him? Is this the real one, and we actually we arrested the wrong person? And the story goes from there. And I love an isolated setting, and a lot of times with Nora books, there's two ways that she'll reveal the suspense. It's either you know who it is and you watch and wait and you're just like anxious the whole time about how we're gonna like come together, or you have no idea who the murderer is and you're surprised at the end. And so with this one, it was definitely more so you were waiting to see like anxiously the big showdown, and I loved it so much, especially because of the island setting, because it's like they're watching and waiting and seeing how this man is going to get to them, and it was amazing. Definitely my favorite of all time by Nora. Highly recommend. Then my other favorite one, these are ones actually I think I physically read both of these, which is shocking that I love them so much. The next one is Black Hills. I read this 2 years ago on vacation. I was just kind of starting my Nora, like getting into her books, my Nora experience, my Nora journey, and this one, if you can't tell, I love animals, and so this one takes place at an animal sanctuary. This one's actually one of the ranch ones that I didn't mind because the ranch was more in the prologue. So also a very common feature of Nora's books is she has a really emotional, hooky prologue that draws you in and makes you care about these characters. So in this one, our heroine and hero had both spent summers at, I think one of them actually lives there and the other one would spend the summers there at this ranch, and they end up falling in love and then have a very big falling out at like college or something, and they don't talk to each other, and she has opened her animal sanctuary on her, I think, grandparents' land, and she is really passionate about her work. He is actually back at his grandparents' ranch to take care of them because they are older, and he has to confront her and things that had happened, and someone's actually sabotaging the sanctuary. There are some animal deaths in here, so please be aware of that, but they don't understand why someone is doing things and like making things difficult and hurting the animals, so they have to figure out who's doing that. And it's a second chance romance, which I really loved, so this one is so good if you like that animal aspect as well. I remember loving this one, and it's definitely one that I need to reread. And of course, under the dust jacket, we have the NR stamp right here, so I just love collecting her hardbacks. I definitely should hop on finding the ones I don't have because I want to expand my collection, but these are all not in my main library. They're in a separate bookshelf in my loft because I love Nora. And the final one of my top 3 is one that I'm including because I think that this is the perfect place to start because I was recommended to start here. I just pulled up my review of this and it said I'm so excited for my Nora Roberts journey. So this is one of the first ones I read back in January of 2023, and that is The Obsession. So this is the UK cover. I think it's stunning. I actually don't know if this one, it does not have the NR on the cover. I actually should get this US edition, but this, I somehow have the UK cover, which I think is stunning. And in this one, the heroine finds out her father is murdering women and is actually like a serial killer. So she turns him in and basically blows up their entire family and their entire lives. Everyone knows who she is and knows what her father did. Her father is notorious. They made like a movie about him, a book about him, everything. And so she feels like she can never settle down because this is haunting her. And she finally settles down in the Pacific Northwest, and she is living there. I think she's a photographer, and like I said, it's been over 2 years since I read this one, but yes, she is a photographer, and now she is settling down in this gorgeous house in this small town in the Pacific Northwest and falls for this mechanic who is a little infuriating when you first meet him. Nora likes to write a lot of like alpha holes, but like not in the endearing way, so sometimes it takes me a little bit of time to really build up to them and warm up to them, but I ended up really loving this. And then someone is actually murdering women around where she lives the same way her father did. So we have serial killer aspect here. I love a serial killer in Nora's books. It's so fun. So I do have a couple more to talk about for that, but this one was just such a fun small town romantic suspense that really drew me into her writing and her stories. So definitely recommend this one for a beginner as well. Okay, so the next category I find so fun because I love, it's gonna sound not applicable, but I swear it's relevant. I love 80s action movies. And so some of hers that I read, even though they're not from the 80s, these books that I've read, they remind me so much of some of my favorite 80s movies. movies. So I have a category of 3 that I would recommend if you're a fan of those kinds of movies, but also like one of them's more like contemporary but like feels 80s, if that makes sense. Maybe because it was written in the 80s. Oh yeah. Look at Nora on the back of this one. This one was written, and that's why I get those vibes, but it's more so like early 2000s movies that I get. I'll explain it. So this one is 1998. So, okay, we'll get to this. So maybe it's more like 90s, 80s action movies, because I just kind of lump those together because that's really what I grew up on. But I love, this one reminds me of Lethal Weapon in a way, but very hard hitting. So the first one I'm going to talk about is High Noon. This one is actually probably her most bloody and gruesome one, which is very surprising. This is a hostage negotiator. So Lethal Weapon, if that makes sense, you know, he's a hostage negotiator. Not a very good one, but in this one, she's a hostage negotiator, and she is in this department, and she is not seen as capable because she's a woman. And there's this guy there that's just so gross. He's like, he thinks he deserves everything. He thinks he's great, and he will literally go into situations and make them worse because he thinks he knows what he's doing because he's a man. And so there is a point where she is assaulted by this person because they're so intimidated by her and think they're better than her. So do know that that happens pretty much in the beginning of this, but she's a hostage negotiator, and someone is actually sabotaging her negotiations. So there are some scenes in here where it's very graphic and like people die, and it's very sad. And so, and like, I still vividly remember these scenes in here, but I feel like that stands the test of like 80s, 90s movies where they are like, you know, those like more action-y romance movies where they're definitely kind of bloody. That just is the nature of those movies. So that's why this one really reminded me of that, and she does fall for someone who is very protective of her as well, and I really like the romance in here. So if you like that, read this one. And then in the next one, the hero just reminds me of like a 90s romance hero, but also if you love the movie Fool's Gold or kind of like National Treasure, any of those movies, I think you would love The Reef. So I used to want to be a marine biologist for a hot second when I was in elementary school because we were learning about them, and I was like, they're finding treasure in the ocean. That's so cool. Never in my life would I ever do that now, but I love that concept, and this is one that I read very early on in my Nora journey because it just sounded so cool. The hero and heroine are both marine biologists. They're divers. They dive for a hidden treasure, and there's this whole like treasure hunt going around for this lost item that the hero actually finds. And so they have competition. So when they're out on not digs, but like when they go out to like dive excavations, maybe, I don't know what you would call it, to these wrecks, they are sometimes in very dangerous situations because they have these rival people coming, they kill some people, and the hero is very alpha and annoying. So he's definitely one of those alpha heroes as well. Not in like a good way, but in like a, oh my gosh, you're like really annoying, but like they're passionately, madly in love with one another kind of thing. I think so this one, like I said, was really early on. I remember I did listen to this one because I was doing a puzzle for the most of the time while I was doing this. She had actually partnered up with the hero and his crew. I do remember that. And then they dive together, and then years actually pass. So Nora also has a lot of like parts to her books. A lot of times they'll divide into like part 1, part 2, part 3. So sometimes like time will pass in these, and I remember there was a time jump in this one, but there's like this cursed object, and I thought it was so fun. But if you like those kinds of movies, I think you would love this one. And again, we have I love this cover. We have the NR in the bottom corner. This one was so fun though. I think that Nora also will choose some really fun and unique jobs for her heroines slash heroes and do a lot of research, and I think it's so fun reading them. So this one definitely. And then the last one I have is because it kind of reminds me, okay, maybe it's like if you like action movies from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, like this is this category, because Night Work I just read like a couple weeks ago, and he is a thief, so it kind of reminded me of like The Italian Job, but also definitely reminded me of The Jackal, which is a recent show. So in this one, the hero from a very early age had to learn how to steal because his mom has cancer and she's dying of cancer, and he knows she can't take care of them. So he kind of falls into stealing, but like in a very smart and savvy way. So like he will research and watch and stake cases out, and then he also is really good at languages, disguises, accents. He gets really, really good at it. So a lot of the book in the beginning, it's very, very slow, but I didn't even notice that because I was listening to this and I was so hooked from the beginning. This is another one that's kind of a tragic beginning that has you really care about these characters from early on in their lives. And so he grows up, and even in college, like he has like a fake identity and a fake story, and he just like really is trying to navigate navigate this world where he's literally alone. He only has his aunt. And so he meets this girl in college, but he gets into trouble with someone who wants to use his skills. And so he has to leave and just travels the world, travels Europe, goes on all these like crazy missions, and he's known as this notorious thief, but no one knows who he is because he's that good. And then we come to a head and things happen, and it is so fun. So if you like that kind of like international espionage spy, but like he kind of really works for himself and he just like steals things, and he's never hurts people. He never hurts people, even animals he'll never hurt. He is just very like morally gray, but like has morals as a thief, if that makes sense. So it was really great. Highly recommend this one too. Okay, so then I have hard-hitting. So I've already talked about some hard-hitting ones, but these are ones that in the beginning you're just like, this is rough. Like these characters are going through some really rough things and you want to see them live out their happy. So that's why I love these ones. And the first one is Undercurrents. This one has a lot to do with abuse, so know that. The huge focus on this, there's so many different relationships in here that are different forms of an abusive relationship that Nora, I feel like, deals with so delicately. The hero actually grows up in an extremely abusive household, and I literally remember vividly listening to this audiobook not knowing if he was even going to like live past the prologue because of how hard of a life he had. So he is growing up with an abusive father, and then we flash forward to now where he's a lawyer and there are just a bunch of different things going on. He ends up moving back to his small town and he falls for this landscape artist, and she has something bad happening in her life as well, and there's all these different characters as well that we delve into. So it's a very complicated like romance, and with all these relationships that like even it's like the suspense is not what made me remember this book. It was the delicate lives of these characters and how much we delved into them. So this one's definitely much more of a hard-hitting one from her. And then another one so interesting to me is going to be Mind Games. And in this one has a little bit of a paranormal edge to it. So Nora sometimes will have just a little bit of paranormal in her straight up contemporary romances. She does have full-on paranormal, which I'll talk about one, but in this one, the heroine has the ability to see things. And so she's a little girl, she's spending time at her grandparents' house, and she sees her parents' murder happening. And she is able to relay everything to the police, and they're like, how did you know this? And she's just like, I just do. She's a little girl when this happens. And so that is horrifying. This guy was just really jealous of their lives. He broke in, murdered both of them, and took all their stuff. And she turned him in. And things happen. I actually need to see if this is in the synopsis because I don't know if I'm allowed to say a twist in here. It does. Okay, so I can tell you. So in this one, she actually does try to help like police because she can see, she has like these visions and see them. Her grandmother does too. The man who murdered her parents has this ability too. So he has the ability to link with her from prison. And that's where the mind game things come in. Like this has not stopped since she's a child. She's an adult now. And it is so crazy that she literally has this link that's unbreakable with the man that murdered her family, and he's rotting in prison now because of her, and he knows that, and so they have this link together. It is so mind-boggling and so good, and I love this one. This is actually one of her newer ones. I think it came out a couple years ago. So good. Definitely shocked me. And then another one of her new ones is going to be Identity. So this one really hooks you in the beginning because the heroine's best friend is actually murdered and her identity taken because it was supposed to be her. So this guy has this type. His goal is to track down these women and take over their identity, ruin their lives, and then ultimately murder them. And so it was her that let this guy into their lives, into their house, and then her roommate ended up being home and he murdered her roommate instead, but completely ruined her life. He took her identity and like ruined her credit, ruined everything that she could ever hope to build a life. And so now she's moved back home and she has to start it completely over. And so she gets a job at this like hotel lodge in town and falls for like the owner's son at this lodge. But this guy has never stopped being obsessed with her. And so that's the story. She's basically the one that got away because he wasn't able to kill her, but he did still ruin her life. And so that's where the story goes from there. That's why it's called Identity. Really rough beginning because she is feeling the guilt of her friend's murder, and we see that throughout this story. So definitely one of her more hard-hitting ones as well. well, especially in the beginning with that prologue. Okay, if you like, I feel like those are my main categories. Now I just have some random ones. So if you want one where you know who the bad guy is the entire time, but you're just kind of like anxious the whole time of when these storylines are gonna meet up, it's a very, I guess this would also fall under hard hitting. It is a very, 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 very hard book to read. I was reading this, I don't remember if I was still teaching at this point, but I used to be a teacher, and this has a mass shooting involved. So definitely know that. It is Shelter in Place. In the beginning, it's a very, very hard. It's at a mall, specifically at a movie theater, and we watched this mass shooting happen, and the survivors of this mass shooting, we follow them. And so one of the heroes of this mass shooting, he's one who actually helped people survive. I think he's actually the one who ends up becoming a police officer. And what happens is that the main people who like helped people, the main survivors of this, the ones that got a lot of notoriety from this horrific event, are being picked off one by one as adults. So they're like, who is taking the lives of the victims of this horrific event that happened? We know pretty early on who the person is doing this, and it's so messed up. Like, this person's mind is so messed up. But you follow the story trying to see how she's getting closer and closer to especially our hero, who is now a police officer because of what happened, and then the heroine, who actually, I think she was the one who called 911 because she was in the bathroom when it happened, and she is, I think they end up having a romance, if I remember. This is one of the first ones I read as well because this was one of her most recommended. I really liked it. I will say I did physically read this. I would have liked it pacing wise if I listened to it because it's definitely kind of slower in the middle like Nora's books tend to do, but overall very, very hard hitting. It was very hard to read in the beginning, so just know and be in the right mind space when you read this. Moving on, all the rest of these are just kind of random that I would want to talk about. The first one is Inheritance. This is my one that's straight up paranormal that I love from her. I have not yet read the second one, but the heroine actually inherits this estate from a long lost relative she didn't know exists. I think it was actually her dad's like twin that she didn't know was alive, and so she inherits this Victorian house on the coast of Maine. Perfect setting, and she ends up realizing it's haunted. Like, legitimate ghosts live here, and most of them are nice. There's like a little boy who plays fetch with the dog there. Like, she has a dog. I think she has a dog, or the guy has a dog. One of them has a dog, and so the little boy likes to play fetch with the dog. And then there's another ghost that will like lay out her outfits like for a date. They'll clean her dinner dishes, but there's one very malicious ghost, and there's actually a curse on this house on the wives and brides that have lived there. Someone in this town she ends up growing closer to. I remember that he was there for a reason. I don't remember if it was him or the person that he was friends with that was also there, but she ends up falling for him, and then they both try to figure out this malevolent ghost together. It does end on a cliffhanger. I have not yet read book 2, but book 3 it comes out this October. I think October. This fall, book 3 comes out, which is the final one in this trilogy, so I'm excited to continue on. I love the paranormal spooky. If you want to read this in fall especially, highly recommend. So then I do have 2 that I surprisingly love. This one, and then another one wasn't my favorite, but I'm going to talk about because these are her ranch ones. These are in Montana. I don't love Western stuff. That's just my thing. I don't love Western historical romances. I just don't read a lot that take place in that setting, but I really enjoyed Come Sundown. This one has a kind of serial killer-esque vibe to it. So the heroine lives on this ranch. This one starts out with a pretty tragic backstory too. So someone that used to live there was kidnapped, and it's very interesting how these chapters from the point of view of this guy who kidnapped this woman and the present chapters, and you don't know the timeline, I think, unless it does tell us the year that it is. I don't remember, but oh, it does. So the prologue is 1991, and you know that this woman is kidnapped and taken basically as like a forced bride of this man to have children with. It's very tragic. She is just tied up in this basement. And then the present day, where the heroine is working on this ranch, and I believe it's the hero is the new hire. He definitely used to live in the town because he has beef with some of the people there, but he's working on the ranch now too. They really like each other, so they're spending time together, and they're riding their horses home, and they come across the body of someone, and she has been murdered, and they're like, oh gosh, like, who is now killing these women? And so there's this whole mystery involved, and they have to figure out who's doing that, and she's running this ranch. So if you like kind of a ranch setting, you might like Come Sundown. This one is one I actually really liked after chatting with my book club about it. When I first read it, I gave it 3.5 stars, but bumped it up to like 4.5 after we like talked walked through everything, I was like, oh, this was actually like super complex. I just find them a little boring when they're on ranches. But the other one that's on a ranch is Montana Sky. This one is definitely a like family saga kind of thing where all these sisters have to come together to work on this ranch in order to get their inheritance. And so they all have very different lives and different romances, and it wasn't my favorite, but if you do like that more like family drama style, I think you would like this. And of course we have a mystery involved. So I don't love ranch romances, which is very interesting because I do like them contemporary. Small town ranch romances, just like, if they're more fiction than romance, I get a little bored. So Montana Sky, though, is definitely one that focuses on these sisters who are living together. And I do think that this has a movie as well. So another one that I really enjoyed, actually, that kind of fits into the like the movie-esque kind of ones that like the 90s, 2000s movies, is The Collector. So in this one, this was so fun because the heroine's a house sitter, and I was like, what a cool job. She just house sits, and she goes like all over the world and house sits for people and like pet sits for them. She's house sitting in New York City. So like Nora does not set a lot of her books in the city, but this one is in New York City, and she watches someone fall out a window, and then the guy kills himself. And so she's like, she witnessed this murder. She's like, oh my gosh. She calls the police, and she ends up being kind of tied up in this whole scandal because the guy's brother is like, my brother would never murder her and he would never kill himself. Like, he was so narcissistic that he would never ever do this. And so they end up investigating together what actually happened and why it would happen, and it does revolve around stealing things, which is really fun. That's why it's called The Collector. They do end up, I believe, going to like Italy in this one, which kind of slowed the plot down for me a little bit, so I gave this one 4 stars, but super intriguing. I really liked the whole city setting as well, and trying to uncover the death that the female had witnessed of the hero's sibling. So I thought that was really interesting. Definitely like more like murder mystery unraveling, which was really cool. Another random one that I actually did really enjoy is River's End. This one, the heroine, growing up, her parents were Hollywood like royalty and ended up dying, and she was very, very, very young when it happened, and ended up be like a witness in it of her father killing her mother. And so now the son of the police officer who actually helped her during that situation wants to write a tell-all book about it. And so he asks her, and they kind of team up and also kind of investigate what had happened to her. And so this one definitely also kind of feels more movie-esque as well, but she has definitely stayed away from the limelight. She grew up in the Pacific Northwest. She has to confront a lot of things that happened in the past and like her memory and what actually happened because she was such a little girl, but falls for the hero also who's doing the story. So this was so much fun. I also really did enjoy this one. And if you like, I think this one also takes place on an island as well. I just love these settings so much. So in Whiskey Beach, our hero is actually a lawyer, and he is accused of murdering his ex-wife, soon to be ex-wife. They literally were on the brink of divorce, and she gets murdered, and they think it's him, and he's like, literally, it's not me. And so he moves to this like house on the beach, and he is trying to write a book, and he ends up falling for, I think it's his neighbor on the beach, the granddaughter of the neighbor, who's like super nice and like kind of meddling, and she's like a yoga instructor, and they just start falling for each other. But someone is definitely set on ruining him, and we kind of have to unravel what actually happened to his ex-wife. So it's definitely more of like a mystery in that sense. But again, love the setting, and I just like feel like Nora's books, even though they definitely always have like murder and mystery in them, they just feel so cozy because like I love the settings that they take place, because this one takes place, it says on Whiskey Beach. I don't know where it took place though, because he's from the city and he goes to this house. I have to see if they actually say where this takes place. It just keeps on saying Bluff House over Whiskey Beach. I don't know, but setting, great. Really enjoyed this one, and the romance was really fun, and I liked the grandmother as well. Oh, it's his grandmother who owns the house, and she has been caring for the house, this woman. So I knew there's a grandmother involved. Anyways, that is the end of my recommendation video for Nora's books. That was a very long one, and that was a lot of books. I will list all of them down below depending on which one you are most interested in. Again, highly recommend checking these out on audio. The audiobooks have all been fantastic that I've listened to. I've only DNF'd a couple of hers that I wasn't super excited about, but other than that, I love her settings. I love her gut-punching prologues that she has. I love the mystery and intrigue. I especially love the serial killers in these where they are definitely a little bit twisty. I just love how extensive her backlist is and how there's always something new to pick up from her. I have so much more to read, but this is where I definitely recommend starting depending on what you're interested in. So I hope this was helpful. Let me know if you have a favorite Nora Roberts book and how long you've been reading her, if you've been reading her for a while. She is just an icon, a legend, and I will continue to enjoy reading all of her backlist. And if you've made it this far, leave me a lighthouse emoji for Whiskey Beach, since this was the last one I talked about. Leave me a lighthouse in the comments, and definitely let me know your favorite Nora Roberts. If I did not talk about in this video, let me know what I have to read next. What am I missing out on? What are her hidden gems? Please tell me. I would love to know, and that's all I have. As always, thank you so much for watching and have a good day. Bye.